Hello, welcome to this podcast. My name is Awumarita. I am a founder of Heart to Heart Spaces, and I'm here with a few people, and we're going to have a conversation on personal wellness in regards to women's mental health. So I'm just going to give you a minute to all introduce yourselves, and then we'll take it from there. I'll start with you.
Hey, hello everyone. My name is Janet Kantalama Katana. I'm a psychologist and founder of Safe Places Uganda. Safe Places Uganda is a private mental health care hospital, which also does advocacy in addition to treatment. I am so honored to be here with you, Rita, to have this conversation and my colleagues as well. This excites me. It's my thing to talk about mental wellness, and if you combine mental wellness with women, then you have me fully.
I can see that smile. And to my left.
Hi, I'm Denzen Mwanguzi. I work with Awesome Mind Speaks, mainly advocating for mental health information and awareness among young people 10 to 30 years across Kampala and other 3 districts.
So these 3 districts are like a secret.
No, they're not a secret, but I think it depends on the relevance of mentioning them. Yes.
Okay.
Oh, hello everyone. My name is Atkunda Hagai Katson. I work with Mindverse Uganda, and what we do at Mindverse is promote mental health in the workplaces through providing employee assistance programs that are embedded in mental health practices and knowledge. And professionally, I'm a social worker, and I'm happy to be here with people I love working with, that I work with, and on a special day of Suicide Prevention Day.
I know.
And also, one other thing I love talking about, not in the wrong way, women.
Not in a wrong way.
Not in a wrong way. And with time, you're going to find out the way I talk about women. Okay. Why I'm passionate about that.
So I feel like we can't start this podcast without the definitions. I feel like the definitions are important so that we actually know what we're talking about. So one of the definitions I like to ask people about is what mental health means to you. How does mental health look like? Yeah. Is it possible for me to be mentally healthy in this economy, in this society? For you, Janet, as a woman, and for you guys as men who see women.
Who support
stand up for women.
men as well.
And men. Yeah.
Okay. Mental health, as you can take it, as you know, there are very many long definitions out there. But I usually tell people that the humanness of a person, okay, the way you think, the way you feel, the way you behave, okay, what makes you a well-adjusted person, a human being, in whatever circumstances, and what makes you a person that will be able to adjust to the stresses of life every day. You know, how will you navigate your interrelations? You know, and so that the goodness and the badness of how you navigate, how you express your emotions, how you express your thoughts and your behaviors in that environment that we are saying that is ever changing is basically your
Mental health.
Yeah. Do you guys have anything to add on that?
Maybe she's explained it fully. The only thing I can add on that maybe is productivity, how productive you are to yourself, but also to the environment around you, and that can include your workplace, your productivity in your relationships at home. Also, all as a human being, you're holistic. There are so many aspects of your life, and like she said, how well adjusted are you in those aspects of your life?
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, I think I agree with everyone. I normally say it's the way I think, process things and act upon them. because again, it's also very important for us to know that the natural response to life is to feel the feelings. So the way we process, the way we think about it, and the way we act is what I call mental health.
And maybe how you manage the bad days too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how you manage the good days.
The
We
good
never
days.
talk about how you manage the good
Yeah, I
days.
think
And we know that is also a problem.
if you get 1 million shillings right now, where do you go first?
Is the 1 million shilling you meaning the good thing? Eh? So what if you already surpassed the 1 million? It is your everyday life. Eh? So yours is in 5 millions. How do you then measure your good things?
$1
Can be now a problematic good
problem.
thing. You don't know how to measure it again. What are some of those things that affect women's mental health, that affects their well-being? Yeah, and how can we watch out for these things?
Okay.
But then also, how can we take care of ourselves to make sure that we don't end up on the other side of the spectrum?
Okay. Thank you so much, Rita. I want us to put women in a context. We not exist in a vacuum.
Yeah.
So I want us to put women in our context, and women of all ages. Okay, because we are affected differently. So what that young child, that young girl in school, their issues will be different from the issues of a teenager, which will be also different from the issues of a young mother, and then different from a person who has gotten into menopause, then an elderly. Okay, but also we have to look at the society, because we exist in society. So there are constructs around women that are society based. Okay, so if we start with society, the society that we live in and thrive in as women currently. I will base on Uganda and maybe the sub-Saharan region, because that's where I can claim to have lived experience as well as information, a little bit more information. There are expectations of women in society, There are expectations as a culture, society that are placed upon us, even at birth, before birth, at birth, and these are things that we have to live with. Okay, so for example, there is a construct of what a woman
Should be,
should be,
should look like.
should look like, should
Should
behave
behave.
like in a setting of a home. There are roles that a woman should do. Okay, there is a way she should place herself in. She's placed, not even she should place herself.
She's
like
placed like
in yes,
Closer
in
to
that
the
society.
action.
Okay, and then also there are things that come about because of the image that society has of women. So there is this image of weakness that is propagated, or that is out there as the weaker sex. So when you're already put in a place of victimhood, if we are to look at that young girl that has maybe is going to school, there will be periods. And we know periods is one of the biggest stigma-inducing things
Yes.
for young girls.
experiences.
Yes.
Experiences for young girls.
Yes.
So when you're telling me that this young girl who is deep down in a rural setting, I will give the Busoga region as an example, because the statistics are there.
Showing, yeah.
So when you look at that young girl and their first day of periods and their lack of the materials to use for their periods, and then you look at their mental health, because essentially it's how she's going to feel about it.
Yes,
Exactly.
And so if you're looking at that setting, you look at her and say, definitely, what do you think she will feel if she, for example, maps when she's at school, or the next day she's going and you've seen people using sand and whatever, soil and cloth and whatever, and she's going in a setting whereby she might be bullied, okay, whereby she even doesn't have anyone to talk about these things with, and now we're talking about the mental health of that child. So that is one scenario, right? Then you come and bring me, because we are society, culture, we exist in different environments. So you also bring another 12-year-old girl who, of course, maybe their circumstances are a bit higher than that girl that I've spoken about. But she's living in a society which is like a school setting, whereby her worth is measured by the clothes she puts on, the family she comes from, basically how she shows up in that very society. So there will be also segregation according to haves and have-nots. And there'll be also a little bit of exposure. Do you have a phone? You know, are you on Instagram? Are you on Snapchat?
Where did you go for the vacation in holidays?
Where did you go for your vacation? I've been this world, and someone will tell you that I posted a picture at 12-year-old and I didn't get any likes, and that will put them in a depression.
I agree.
And it's real for them.
And that will put them in a slump. So when we are looking at, there are those issues that will naturally occur to girls, but also in the different environments that the girls are existing in. Right? So if we look at teenagers, there's so much pressure for teenagers in this current setting of ours. You know, there is pressure from predators. That one goes without saying. That we have so much sexual aggression towards young girls. And because of the exposure and the social media, there's also too much pressure for the girls to jump stages.
Yeah.
And so there are predisposing factors for abuse for the girls. For example, a girl having an iPhone, that one is already putting them at a risk. Now, when you look at the other girl child of the other setting, whereby this girl child will not even have sexual reproductive health information and will probably have an early pregnancy at 16.
I saw recently in the news people congratulating a 16-year-old for having quadruplets.
Imagine.
Or triplets. And I was like, this is sad. This should not be celebrated.
16-year-old who is having quads. 4 children, 4 babies who she gave birth to naturally and was national news.
And now that's why they were congratulating.
Yeah, and they were congratulating her for that.
So if you look at that girl who is in that setting, then she said that the husband was also an underage, at least below 18, according to that story. Now, that is just one story. Now, this is the everyday life of those people. There is defilement, there is forced rape, there is also consented to marriage by the parents, forced marriages of underage girls in poverty-stricken environments. Okay? So imagine this young girl is getting into a situation that should ideally be for an adult. And then they're struggling through that situation. And now you're talking about their mental health and wellness, you know. And we also know biologically, developmentally,
they're still developing. It's a household of 6 children.
So a child is trying to raise a child. You're getting it? So now if you look at that as well, then that is also definitely.
I was actually telling someone that we need to start looking at the growing rate of young parents, like children who are parents, because now it's stopping to say that, okay, it's a young mother, it's a young father. These are now like
parents already.
Parents who need parenting.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's like so devastating to know that they have to figure out life on their own. They have to like go through like the societal norms. Yeah. But also they are living to the expectations of like, you know, my father, my mother. So I think it's getting like too bad to even think about. And like, I wonder how people even in these regions or in these societies celebrate success. You know, it's something also we need to like really look into. What is success to them, you know?
And you know, you might be successful, but as a woman in these environments, you're still brought down.
Yeah.
Recently, during this current weekend, a Makerere girl outed an abuser.
Thank you.
When she went ahead to out an abuser and talk about her experience on Twitter, one, she was slut-shamed. Two, the guy was like, you're not the type of woman I would ideally rape.
Imagine, I was...
The confidence to say that already.
And then they went on and started to say, this was happening in the Makerere fraternity. So guys go on to say these girls are ugly. No one would want them. They go to a SMAC group that like report these accounts because these people are against us. And I'm just saying the environment of being bullied. Okay, now this is a totally different scenario from the other girls in the village. You have come, you've been successful, your grades are good, and now you're in a situation just because you are a woman, you can't breathe. You can't be allowed to be strong. You can't be allowed to be smart without being put down. And these things are affecting girls' mental health. The trauma from the rape, then the trauma from opening up, and then the trauma from the bullying. Like,
and also the trauma of the fact that you won't get helped at all.
yes.
Sometimes it feels like there's nowhere to
There's
run
nowhere to run
for the girl child.
for the girl child.
Just for even the existence of a girl child.
Right.
So when I saw this story, Rita, I was on, I must confess that sometimes when I'm on the X, I feel like I want to enter, pluck some people out. Because they actually do not know
You see,
what it takes to exist
yeah,
as a woman or to thrive
As a woman.
Yeah.
So you've beaten all these odds that we have spoken about.
Yeah.
You've
And then
no school. You're somehow thriving. Yeah, you're at law school. Then you still have to beat many more, like sexual violence, like oppression. Yeah, like that kind of thing.
but I feel like it's a good reason that you have gentlemen here, because now
So how then would you support women's wellness? We've given you an example of something that happened over the weekend.
So for me, going back to what she was talking about, I first want to applaud women that it's the part of the population that have really taken time to understand what self-care is, and they're actually, in some aspects of it, they are doing well. I will tell you, one aspect of self-care is physical what? Self-care. And I'm telling you, we know, like, where we pass, you look at the girls around you, the women around you, you see they are trying to take care of themselves physically. They go to the gyms, you go to the gyms around Kampala, they are working out, they are healthy and all that. Now, the other aspects of self-care, emotional self-care, social self-care, now they can only do enough, because the challenge is the experiences that deny them the ability to achieve those successes are not in their hands. They're in the hands of
You.
us, the men.
You
understand? But not only the men, the systems around
Yeah.
them.
The
You
systems that have been.
So for me, I feel like it's more of a question of education and using a very harsh hand in punishing the systems and the individuals that deny women, because we know it's a fact
Okay,
of
do you
life.
see the systems punishing?
It's so sad. Let me give you an example
no,
of
but
something that happened
something
recently.
that you can
Haggai.
think about.
The lady who the runner who
Yeah,
got
exactly.
70% banned.
Yeah.
You guys, when I saw that story, when it broke out, my heart dropped, and one side was blank and the other side was, how can I find a way to ban him so that it's 100?
That's what I said about the harsh
I
punishment.
actually tweeted it because I was like, no,
Because let me tell you,
they were treating him for his 30% bans. I was like, no,
that's the harsh
let
punishment
his
I
bans
was
heal
talking
on his own.
sometimes I feel like we are so lenient on abuse
Yes,
towards women.
we are.
We've made it more of a dialogue. It's not a dialogue when it's on that level.
It shouldn't
any
be.
level.
Or at any level, actually, it should never be a dialogue. So for me, that's what I'm thinking. It's the other aspects of women self-care. They are really trying. I'll give you an example why I said I love talking about women. Me, I was raised by a single mom, okay? She's the first person I ever saw go to the gym. And as a kid, do aerobics. You understand? And wherever you would ask, she's like, I don't want hypertension and all things. And she's not a well-educated lady. You understand? So I know she's been trying over, but there are certain things that have denied her proper mental health that are out of her hand.
I grew up in a community that was surrounded by gender-based violence. And the way that it was manifesting, it was more of like power and control. Yeah. And, managing a family. It is something that I saw firsthand, but also like experienced, that sometimes if this man is gonna beat your mom and you get into it, you also get the remainder of the slap. So
sadly,
it got really bad. But also even the neighbors that could live around, if this neighbor sees the other husband beating the wife,
intervene.
They wouldn't intervene, but also they would say that one is doing nothing for me. I can do what?
I can do what?
There's this culture saying that says that, is it the Baganda or something? Omusajja akukuba yakwagala.
Can him? But it's everywhere. Even in my culture where we come from, they would always tell women that if your husband is not beating you,
then he doesn't
love you.
No, so I think for me, like noticing that, it kind of like affected me even when like formulating relationships themselves and quantifying what does this mean to me, and also associating with the different people. I would say like the best way to support a woman is, first of all, say no to any form of violence. Yeah, that is the first thing, and non-negotiable. But we need also now to go back to the young boys who experienced violence passively. What is it doing to them now as men in the society? But also the young girls who actually also experienced that violence. What does it mean? Because it's very different to live in fear all the time. And we live in fear. You're a very bold woman, very strong, successful, but because of the history, you're still living in that fear that is not yet addressed. So I was reading a post and someone was saying that fear of communication is trauma-based.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you feel like your voice is not going to be heard.
Not going to be.
Or whatever you say is going to have like negative consequences to it, which is like really, really deep. We need to now understand, are we supporting women to communicate without fear? Or are we supporting...
What does that look like for women to communicate without fear?
Let me tell you one thing.
Supporting them.
We've been doing that, but it's no longer effective. Because it's not action or intervention based.
Yeah.
So we've given a lot of platform to women. There are so many women doing great things. They say the right thing.
So women doing nothing.
Nothing. But those that are doing a lot, they are giving the right information. They are trained the right way. They have the good intentions, but they are not the interventions, because they are not supported. Because the abusers, they fear if we put that into action.
I also have to tell you, a small percentage of people you're referring to.
Yeah, very.
Communicate.
Yeah.
It's so small.
It's very, very tiny. And that is why we need to understand comprehensively that some of these issues that we're saying that are hindering women are so deep-rooted that even us women ourselves do not know them. Okay, you'll find this woman who is thriving, has a career, has whatever, but she's being emotionally
abused.
Yes. That's
or someone who's going to gym, but she's going for the wrong reason.
For the image of her body.
Image. So she needs to fit in an attraction.
It takes me to the question I had for you, because we've been talking about culture, and we see traditional culture has more harms than good to women, general well-being, but also mental health. Then there has been a shift in culture, okay, especially with globalization, internet, social media. So now there's this extreme where women don't have a voice whatsoever. Then there is this other extreme where now social media has given them a platform, but the communication is wrong from themselves, and also it gives an easy access, their abusers, easy access to them, but also the communication, because they are not trained the right way.
I would also say this, and I always say this, that I no longer say that I have given a woman a platform. These platforms have always been there, just underutilized, and women have not been there. It's now time for them to take up the spaces, because these are spaces that have always been there, but because we all thought they are male-dominated spaces, we are always talking, like you can hear even the qualifiers giving up, providing platform, what. Literally, your provision is not about platform, it's about respect.
Yeah.
Your provision is about respect, acknowledgement, so we need to stop saying I've provided. They're also providing. Women are actually providing more platforms now than ever.
For them.
I'll tell you
for
something.
themselves, but also the men. Right now, I would say when you look at, there is a publication among the best CEOs. Look at the women taking up those spaces, employing millions and millions of men, but also fellow women. So I think we need to also embrace that the fee of communication that I'm talking about is not like providing a platform, is not saying that you should say this and this and this. It's more about acknowledging that now if a woman makes a decision, it's a good
I
decision.
think the question right now on my mind, okay, the CEOs, they're in law school, some are in the village. What is the state of their mental health? What can they do to take care of their mental health as they simply exist in a system that's broken and in a system that is against them? What are some of those tips you can share as people who have been in the mental health space and as men who support women in the mental health space? What are some of these tips if the viewer listens in and is asking herself, okay, I'm a CEO, but I'm depressed. I'm a CEO, but I'm anxious. I'm a CEO, but I'm struggling with prolonged grief. What are some of the tips that you can share?
Thank you, Rita. I don't want to leave his point about the CEOs who have
Me
brought
too.
themselves to the
Say, yeah.
So to go back, Rita, to that person who is listening to this dire situation of women, we need to first get educated to know that there are things that when you're looking at a woman, you have to look at them, that there are risk factors that are existing for them being women. And I'm going to quickly list them. I've given examples of them in these two examples, but just to list them out there. Okay?
Yeah.
They are at high risk of sexual violence. They are at high risk of early pregnancy for our young girls. They are at high risk of online
Bullying.
violence. Because that now is like the new violence.
Yes.
Then they're at high risk of gender-based violence in their homes. Okay. Physical. Then they're at high risk of need. So if there's poverty that is happening in a family, because there is unequal access to resources, of course it will be worse for the women. Okay. Then there are also hormonal, natural processes. Women go through that predispose them to poor mental health. For example, menstruation, menopause, childbearing. Then when you are aware that those are factors that affect women by their existence, being women.
Just by being born.
Being in this society, in this culture, all right? Then you look at them, how does it manifest? So then you look at the figures. You will see that women have higher rates of depressive disorders. Then they have higher rates of suicide ideations and attempts.
Yes.
Okay, they might not.
That's true.
They have higher rates of that. They have perinatal, postnatal depression. And then when you look at that woman, when I say the risk factors, then you also have to look at, they might not be risk factors, but the barriers that they have to overcome to get to good mental health. That they have the primary caregivers in any society, at least in the Sub-Saharan African.
And for everyone, even for the men,
So if I'm giving you tips to improve your mental health, but then you have the bigger burden
that you're still carrying.
You have not addressed that burden, taken it off, and I'm adding you. This is what I normally get from people who come for support. Like, you're telling me to go to gym. You're telling me to create time for myself. I have to go to work. I have to go back home and prepare for my family. Then I have to take care of the children.
With the children, give them time.
And then you're telling me, carve out time for yourself.
And I'm also depressed and I'm fighting anxiety. On the side,
I'm being bullied at the workplace. I have to do double to prove myself.
To get a promotion.
At the workplace. Yeah? Anyway, so that being said, the barriers are enormous.
Yes.
However, it is all not gloom.
No.
It's all not
Gloom. Yeah.
if we get this information out there,
Yes.
Yeah.
and in context, put it in context.
The
Because
right
the right
context.
context.
Our work, in workplaces. That's when I realized that this thing of women empowerment in jobs is all a myth, I will tell you. So we usually do workshops in different workplaces. And then there's this particular company we went to, and the CEO is female. So we also met, I think the ED something, someone over. So I was surprised, like 90% of the population in the company is female. So I was like, wow, you're doing well, equality and all that. Then he told me, you know why I hire all this? Because when you have beautiful women around, you get clients.
So they are tokens.
I was like, you understand? That means that they are in a worse situation than they thought
they were in.
they were
They're
in.
being objectified.
They're being
Objectified.
objectified.
And I'm being honest with you.
And then
Most workplaces.
there's also the situation where you've been told a fellow woman is your competition.
Yeah.
So now it just becomes such a toxic work environment.
I'm telling you.
The only way I can get on top is by
so
stepping
hard.
and putting down another.
That's so hard. I
The
look
question I
at
would
You can
have,
say
like,
so much.
question I would have in this conversation is, has there been any success? You know,
Okay.
because like it's also like maybe good to know, to say that, okay, for this woman and this woman, what is there been any success?
use that as a benchmark.
And we use that as a benchmark to also like address.
Yes. So me, I'll go back to what the success is. You know, that it was working before in a certain way. We just didn't know it was working. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, not in a certain way, meaning in the mental health of those people. That is why you wonder that those people who were forced into marriage at an early age, who had to bear the burden and whatever, there were little pockets of happiness that they got from, for example, they had social capital.
Yes.
I'd want to share one of the little pockets of happiness that I notice is they always say to us now, a problem shared is a problem solved. But those women would come together while washing clothes, while peeling matoke, and they'll just have conversations about how their days were, how their kids are. And then there was community in raising the children. Like my child wasn't just my child. My child was your child, my child was her child. So I would have less. I'm in the garden, but there's a neighbor who is keeping
An eye.
on my child. But now all this with the urbanization and the things, the change of the world, change is always going to happen. And that's a fact that has come about. We find that if someone touches my child, if someone says something to my child, we have reached a place of, I don't trust people. My issues are my issues. So now we're drowning with these issues. And when I look back, I'm like, our great-grandparents are having group therapy.
Yes. So that is where there is, we moved from the other. What we moved to is not necessarily what is very good. That is why you see, while you're going to work, everyone is going to work.
Yeah.
You cannot say that, my sister, you can house sit for me.
I know.
Because she also has
Work to do.
work to do.
I agree.
Bills there.
Doom and gloom. There are those that are actually. So if we can encourage the women in that setting to continue having these
The spaces Rita has been providing for a while now.
those activities, those ones in that setting, right? So in this setting where we are at the moment, so while we're having that setting, we can also put in SRH, sexual reproductive health and rights, education
In that
in there,
setting.
in that setting.
Yeah.
So in that, we're saying that, can you get the good for the girl child? Let's talk about her getting educated. Can we offset some of the barriers?
And in that setting, you're not talking at them. You're talking with them.
With them, yeah.
You're finding
They're
the
having a conversation. Yes.
You're having a conversation with them, and people are more willing to listen in such settings. And tip 1, tip 2.
And that is why it is good for them to be what are they called? Society, not generated, but consumer generated solutions. Like they should come from within.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're the most effective.
They are most exactly. If they're coming, I'm missing the right word to use, but if they are driven, by the end user driven
Like
solution.
human-centered.
Yes, so that is that. So for that, if we can then encourage, then that means you see, yes, there will be that woman who suffers from depression deep down there, but she will also have a support system. Then if we also go and tackle the GBV, because that one is now a global, the intersectionality of that's another issue.
Yes.
So if there are efforts towards a reduction of gender-based violence and poverty eradication, because those are key predisposers
Yes.
to the poor mental health.
As a woman, how do you manage the impact of social media on your mental health?
So what I say is, I told you, I think before when we were having an off chat here, that I intentionally did not join TikTok. Okay. Even on my participation on Instagram is as far as
Work.
then I'm not on Snapchat. Okay. I'm not saying that people shouldn't go onto these communication channels, but we should be so selective on what we allow into our brain. Very, very selective.
So I'd like to share how me I'm on all.
I also use a couple of them.
It's because of the advocacy part of it. But what I use is I do a mental health break every month, at least twice a month. My phone will be off from Friday to Sunday for me just to detox. But another thing I have learned to do now is to curate the content that I take in. At a certain point, I had gained a lot of weight because of the bipolar medicine side effects. And I was still on the TikTok for thin girls. So like you'd scroll, you see that top.
The triggers.
You're like, I think this is the top for me. You go to the boutique, you try the top, but the top is feeling tried by you. So you feel so bad. My body dysmorphia went down the drain. I started to hate my body. I have a lot of clothes, but now I was just wearing these 3 dresses only. Like I would interswitch because they kind of felt like they fit, and if someone saw me, they'll be like, yes, it's a sundress.
They're confusing.
It's supposed to be like but then I started to curate my content. So I now started looking for people who are my size and who are living life well and who are living life happily. And I was like, I like this. And then I was like, okay, now I want to go back to gym. And then I started to follow content creators that work out every day. So even when I'm having a lazy day, a bad day, I'll be like, okay, I don't want to go to gym. Then I go, okay, TikTok, what did this babe do? I'm like, she went. Then my mind is automatically, now let's go to gym. So curating your content is really, really very important. But then it also helps deal with that unworthiness that comes. Like, I've been classmates with Janet for a long time. Janet is now in the top 40, under 40.
40.
Me, I'm just trying to get my salary to 800K. I'm on her Instagram page. She's in Dubai. The only place I can go to is in Tinder for pork. I have learned. Like, I will mute you for a period until I am now in a space where I'm like, I'm now in a space where I'm celebrating Janet and I can now take in her content.
I agree.
So I have learned to be self-aware as a person. It takes time, and I learned this from going for therapy. People think that you go for therapy when you're having bad days, when you're feeling ill, but start now, even when you're feeling good, and then you can prevent this from happening. I always say preventative measures are very important, and they're better than being on the other side.
But we also know that self-care can be both preventive and rehabilitative.
Yes, it can. Because
for mental health, it's always good to be proactive.
Yes.
Reactive.
So,
but because we
think that at a certain point people don't know how to be proactive about their mental health and their self-care, because again, that is something to think about between maybe it's just luxurious, or it's actually self-care, or maybe this and this, because I feel like there is a very gray line when it comes to like the need of being proactive and just like, let's say, I'm passing time. So
Just
like,
no.
how
But
do we
This is
like,
what I always tell people. You see, self-care is like a mosquito net. I always tell people the reason why you put on mosquito net or buy a mosquito repellent is the same reason you need to start your self-care journey.
But you see, people think self care is luxurious. But like Janet was saying, let's sit down and think. I feel like there was wisdom with the people who
Came before
came
us.
before.
yes,
Taking care of your mental health. They'll tell you, have vitamin C. You don't have to buy the vitamin C supplements. Wake up, go outside,
Get a
Sana.
fruit.
kasana.
eat a mango.
You don't have to pay 400,000, 300,000 for gym. Go take a walk, 1
Do you know
kilometers,
someone lives
2 kilometers.
15 minutes from their workplace and they take a border every day
You
to
don't
work?
you don't have to, if you can't, if you're not in a position to afford a private therapist, you don't have to go and say, yo, me, I'm dying on this private therapist. You guys, Butabika is there.
Look for the solution
Look
that can
for
fit
the
within your-
solutions that can fit within,
Within-
that won't add stress
Yes, exactly.
to what you're doing.
You're doing.
But now, let me break it down. Your salary is 500K. You're trying to get vitamin D supplements, that 80K. You're trying to go to gym, it's the lowest, it's 10K a day. You go for one session and you're like, okay, I think all my problems have been
been
sorted.
solved.
It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Rita, I want to speak about therapy as a way of self-care.
Yes.
I always I want to tell people that you see how many years you spend in school. All those years you spend in school prepare you for what? For a job, isn't it?
Sometimes no job.
Job or no job, right?
Yes.
But it prepares you for that
Something.
something
The
that.
anticipation of a job.
Right?
The anticipation.
Anticipation of
But
productivity.
what is preparing you for life?
Nothing.
I mean, a job is part of your life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is preparing you for life. So I want people to look at therapy as that guiding star.
That's
Yes,
all.
we have our religious beliefs, and it is very important. I have to declare here for you to believe in a higher power. God as you know Him,
Spirituality.
Allah,
Buddha.
God as you what?
You know him.
God as you know
Aquafina.
Him. It is very important. Haggard. So I will also declare that some people say, me, I take all my problems to God.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But also God gave wisdom too.
To
That's why if you
man,
had
yes.
a broken leg, you would say, I take my broken leg to God. But God gave you a surgeon
Surgeon.
and a doctor.
And
Okay.
the Bible actually says, my people perish because of lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay. So still, now we've established that we are prepared for that productivity without being prepared for life on a human basis. So I want people to look at therapy as, yes, in Africa it is coming on late.
Yeah.
When you can afford,
Yeah.
when you have got into problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that is when we usually see people when they're at crossroads.
Crossroads.
Right? But look at other people who will have a child psychologist.
Yeah.
Okay. So for us here, they will say, what is the child telling a child psychologist, which they can't tell their parents? Those are different roles.
Very.
I
Okay.
agree. I agree.
So therapy is preparing you
For
for
life.
life. Therapy should be at all stages of
Life.
life. There should be a child who has support, knowing that a child who can express and be able to express to someone else who's not there,
Yes.
parent. All right?
I have a sad example about that. So I go for my monthly reviews in this hospital. Let me keep
No mention.
Yeah. So one day I was in the line and this parents walk in with a child. The child's tongue was swollen and the child couldn't swallow. The child couldn't. It was a girl. So they took her to a local medical center. And the local medical center, instead of us having the conversation, referring her to a therapist, just gave her diazepam. So it turned out she was allergic to it.
Oh my God.
and that's why the tongue
Was
was swollen. So I go on, I'm like, no, first rush her to the ER because I'm concerned. And I've watched a lot of Grey's Anatomy. You start from the ER.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they rush her to the ER. The
Stand up
father
is
comes
nice.
and says, oh, I'm so glad you just saved my child's life, blah, 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 blah. And then after, I'm like, did this child tell you what was going on in school? Then he was like, yeah, she has this little book that we found after she had an attempt, but we just felt like she had Chejo. And like my heart stopped. And then I was like, would you want to see the child psychiatrist she is in today and have this conversation with her? Because they didn't know. They simply didn't know.
No, yeah.
Then
How
they
to go about
thought
it.
they were being parents and they were taking this Chejo out of this child. Yeah, so that point is very, very important.
I'll tell you, Rita, that most people, that some of the traumas that people deal with later in adulthood is because of abuse,
I agree.
sexual abuse,
Yes.
which has been faced or experienced in their home setting.
Yeah.
And someone comes at 30 and they have never told
Anyone.
anything about this. So imagine that child at the time the person was molesting them. By the way, molestation both male and female.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was molesting them. They didn't fear their parents, or they had that one person they thought they would trust to give them solutions beyond their parents. Could they probably have gone to that person and told them, this teacher,
My dad or
when my teacher
whatever.
comes to do coaching for me, he touches my private parts, you know? So we have to look at it in a holistic way.
Yeah.
Oh, that child who is being bullied at school, and maybe they've told their parents, and their parents have, we're all bullied. We all went through school. If they had that professional person who would pick apart that bullying, do you see the damage that can be prevented?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so that is one. Now, when the child gets that support, they grow up in a well-adjusted. Even the career you're preparing them for will be easier on them.
Yeah.
I remember I told you it's a VUCA world that is volatile, uncertain, okay, complex, and ambiguous. That is the environment
We live in.
So we're trying to prepare the person to be able to live in
And
that.
tame it.
Not tame it, but to go with it. If it is, you tame yourself, you
Yeah,
manage the
tame,
VUCA world, isn't it?
Yeah.
So now, then that child is being prepared. The child will go become a teenager. There will be teenager-related issues. Have you prepared that child to manage therapy? Okay. Then you come to the adulthood. Okay. So for me, when I look at therapy, and I want people to look at therapy as that, is it that you want to make a decision in life and you need an objective?
Yes.
Yeah.
Please go.
Okay.
Let me tell you one
Okay.
one thing. So when I was at campus, I entered a social work class that I chose to do. Then, like 99% of the people that were there because they failed pre-entry for law.
Oh.
Yeah, there are like so many people that didn't want to be, but it's what the university
Yeah.
provided. So you can imagine me, I was lucky because I had some career guidance from a psychologist when I was in high school. And then they helped me. So people think that therapy is when you're dealing with mental illnesses and all that. It's just guidance through life. It
Yes.
can be career guidance, it can be any form of, even when you're resettling from
Prepare you for life.
it prepares you for life.
Yeah. So I want to wind up
Yeah,
this
the
conversation. It's been like amazing. We have learned a lot from each other. And I want to give a minute to each one of you to say your closing remarks in regards to women's wellness and personal care when it comes to mental health. But before you do that, as you guys were talking, I was so glad that Ford has come up with this initiative of creating a center where young women and young girls can go to get skilling for life. There will be wellness sessions in the center. There will be places where women can go to rest, rejuvenate themselves with like-minded women. Like sometimes you just need that safe space with someone who is on the same journey with you, as opposed to just being put out there. So I'm so grateful for the Imara Center, and I'm so excited for it. So we have its festival on the 12th of October, the National Day of the Girl Child. It will be at Katikati. Yes. So please come through. Please come through. Let's fundraise and give towards the building of this center. Yeah. So, Janet.
Maybe today we should first give the men. So
Yeah.
let's space.
Yeah.
Advise us on.
So, what would
My closing remarks. First of all, I'm happy that I was invited for this conversation. Thank you, Rita, and to the organizers. And I will say this: the well-being of we know that strong women build strong societies. So the welfare of a society depends on how healthy or supported women. That's why I'm here, because I feel like as men who are the primary abusers and deniers of women's rights, it's the onus is on us to drive the conversations, but also the solutions to these challenges, and support our women at all levels. To first of all,
your women.
our
The hour.
our mothers and sisters and friends and all that, support them so that they attain the rightful tools, the effective tools and information to first of all start and take on their self-care journeys, because when they do that, then they will be able to look after themselves, but most importantly look after society, because they are the primary caregivers.
I think I like to say that as a young man, I feel happy to be learning every day, especially from women, from all backgrounds. I think there is a lot of learning that we need to do, and we need to acknowledge and accept that, and also say that by embracing like self-care, women become unstoppable. They challenge societal norms. They create a just and equitable world. So I think it's something that we really need to invest in. I was part of Imara Festival, I think the previous edition, and I saw the joy people had. I saw how girls celebrated their wins and, their struggles. But it was a community that, brought them together to, acknowledge that, yes, this is happening. So this is how we walk through it. Yes, men were there. And I think it's also important that we start learning. Learning, unlearning, and relearning. I think it's something that we need to do continuously, and also we need to stop complaining. We need to stop saying that this, that. We need to embrace that. Okay, now this is happening, and we work through it. If I was traumatized by maybe something, it's something, like you said, therapy is important. It's something that I need to start working on so that I don't transfer that aggression to a person who wasn't even there. So I think for me, we need to deal through that. We need to embrace therapy. We need to stop thinking that everything is revolving around the decisions that we make.
Yeah.
So, so I think it's very, very important. Mental health is very important. We recently, as Osa Minds, we provided 250 menstrual flow cups to young girls in Busoga. Yeah, because we know that when you anxious about your next period, there is no way you're even going to concentrate. There is no way you're going to make an informed decision. So part of it is that, okay, I might come with my mental health conversation, but am I really helping?
Really, yeah.
Yeah, there's the action
Okay.
after the conversation.
So we kind of supported, and it was, for me, it gives me joy to see that, okay, as a young man, I'm contributing. I'm contributing. Thank you.
Thank the male champions
Yes.
that come and discuss and also do something, just discuss.
Yes.
Longer discussion. And we're not saying in this, we don't want to call it fight for women empowerment, that we should not be of.
No, we need
You
to.
should be part of.
It's actually male empowerment.
Yes, the conversations, be involved. Okay. So for me, for that girl child, for that woman who is out there, it is to start with your awareness of what is prevailing in your environment. Know what is, and then you can do something about it. Then for self-care, I have to say that people misconstrue or misunderstand self-care, especially in these days that the way people are throwing it around. It seems like,
Staycation.
Staycation.
and
Massage.
when you're talking
But
about
those are
massage,
female terms and things, yeah.
so that it is basically putting yourself at the center
The center of whatever is.
and loving on yourself
Yourself.
in the best way that you possibly can in the given environment or circumstances in which you are. Self-care does not have to be expensive.
Expensive.
Okay. Self-care can be modeled to your circumstances.
Yes.
So if it is that person that is so burdened with so many things, self-care can be sleep. You know? So that is what I say. It has to be specific. It has to be custom made for you.
For you.
Why therapy is, just to put a little bit, is because people think that, and people always tell me that I thought people come for therapy when they have very many,
When they're sick.
or when they are sick.
Sick.
No.
It's not.
Okay, it is not that. Even when you're not sure, come and say, I'm not sure I am here.
But
I
I'm
thought
here.
I am here. I thought I would have a conversation. Let's see how the conversation
Goes.
It could be that then maybe you mentored.
Yeah,
It could be then maybe it's there's another personal development or growth area that you have
you have
taken a path.
yeah.
Okay, it could be that you're guided in one way or another. It could be that you're healed of even that which you did not know you were suffering from. And the thing is empowerment. If you don't know this information, search for it. We are always on the internet doing anything else but things that are good for us.
Good for us.
But things that are what? Good for us. Then finally, to that girl child. Okay? When we are talking about mental health, we cannot not talk about
The girl child.
and empowerment. Empower yourself financially, empower yourself physically, empower yourself emotionally, empower yourself
Also spiritually, like
spiritually.
Yeah.
I entirely agree. And I always want to emphasize that because people say that when you come therapy, is it not a religion? No, isn't. We can get into that conversation at another time.
Yeah.
But empower yourself as that girl child. Yes, holy. Holistically empower yourself. Because yes, the hindrances are there. Yes, the barriers are numerous. Okay? But then if you come into the space as a victim, then you will truly be
A victim.
a victim. And I wish mental health and wellness on anyone.
So, guys, thank you so much for coming. I have totally enjoyed this conversation.
Great conversation.
I just feel like I should host another conversation and bring you guys on board because there are a lot of things to debunk that couldn't just be done in one episode. Yeah, but thank you guys for coming. Again, I would like to re-echo the Imara Festival is happening on the 12th of October. We have a 1K campaign. So when you're coming with for the Imara Festival, if you have 10K, go look for change and give us. But if you have 100K, we want
It's just a cake campaign.
But if every $100 made out of so many cases.
Yeah, it's a cake campaign.
We want to make this center a reality. We want you guys to come on board and imagine with us. We believe Imara is possible and we believe Imara is going to create a whole difference. Bye.